Were his grandchildren butchers? Carry grandchildren butcher?
Torunları kasap taşımak.
You should get well soon. You need to rescue urgently.
Acil kurtarmalısın.
Did I call 10 years? Decade meeting?
10 yılı toplantısı mı?
Does her stepdaughter write? Does her stepdaughter write?
Üvey kızı yazar mı?
Now we can dance. Now we can dance.
Şimdi dans edebiliriz.
They should not be limited to weekly. They should not be limited to weekly.
Haftalık olarak sınırlamamalıdırlar.
After 5 nights, we may not be the housekeeper. After 5 nights, we may not be the housekeeper.
5 gece sonra kahya olmayabiliriz.
Can't I suspect? Can't I suspect?
Şüphelenemez miyim?
Do I get engaged often? Do I get engaged often?
Sık sık nişan alır mıyım?
They will be in a second. Them in a second.
Bir saniye sonra onlar.
Your father was a pipe player. Your father was a pipe player.
Baban boru döşeyiciydi.
His grandchildren were porters. His grandchildren were porters.
Torunları kapıcıydı.
Rarely did he become an economist. Rarely did he become an economist.
Nadiren ekonomist olmadı.
Should not object. Should not object.
İtiraz etmemelidir.
After 5 nights, he can be a contractor. After 5 nights, he can be a contractor.
5 gece sonra müteahhit olabilir.
They won't be out soon. They don't come close.
Yakın çıkarmazlar.
You were organized. You were organized.
Örgütlüydün.
My son was the conductor of the orchestra. Was the conductor of the orchestra.
Orkestra şefiydi.
Did they not exercise? Did they not exercise?
Egzersiz yapmıyorlar mı?
Was his stepfather a urologist? Could his stepfather be a urologist?
Üvey babası ürolog olabilir mi?
Their cousin is the air traffic controller. Their cousin is the air traffic controller.
Kuzenleri hava trafik kontrolörü.
Don't you suspect? Don't you doubt?
Şüphelenmiyor musunuz?
Sometimes we have to quote. Sometimes we have to quote.
Bazen alıntı yapmalıyız.
He could have taught 3 nights ago. He could have taught 3 nights ago.
3 gece önce öğretebilirdi.
He was never the mayor. He was never the mayor.
O asla belediye başkanı değil.
Was my son an orthopedist? Is my son an orthopedist?
Oğlum ortopedist mi?
They could send. They could bring.
Getirebiliyorlardı.
You will use. You will use.
Kullanacaksın.
Your wife is a detective. Your wife is a detective.
Karınız dedektif.
He is taking. It is located.
O yer alıyor.
Were his children mechanics? Children's machinist circular?
Çocukları makinist genelgesi.
Your parents were notaries. The family was notary.
Aile noterdi.
Was your father a truck driver? Daddy truckers?
Baban kamyoncuları.
Don't we normally protect? Don't you normally protect?
Normalde korumuyor musunuz?
Is her brother-in-law a teacher? Is her brother-in-law a teacher?
Kayınbiraderi öğretmen mi?
Never feels. Never feels.
Asla hissetmez.
Were their grandchildren bus drivers? Were their grandchildren bus drivers?
Torunları otobüs şoförü müydü?
His parents were advertisers. Your parents were advertisers.
Ebeveynlerin reklamcıydı.
Should not be the messenger at sunrise. The messenger should not be at sunrise.
Güneş doğarken elçi olmamalıdır.
You roll. You roll.
Sen yuvarlan.
Wouldn't it connect? Won't it connect?
Bağlanmaz mı?
Could analyze. Could analyze.
Analiz edebiliyordu.
He didn't answer at dawn. At dawn they have no answers.
Şafakta cevapları yok.
Recommended every year. Year is recommended.
Yıl tavsiye edilir.
Was your grandfather the CEO? Was your grandfather the CEO?
Dedeniz CEO muydu?
It is compared one night later. It is compared one night later.
O bir gece sonra karşılaştırılır.
His father is a hematologist. His father is a hematologist.
Babası hematolog.
Can't I solve? Can I draw?
Çizebilir miyim?
I can reply after 3 days. I can reply after 3 days.
3 gün sonra cevaplayabilirim.
4 nights later he won't make a statement? Will he not do it after 4 nights of explanation?
4 gece açıklama sonra yapmayacak mı?
I am adding. I am adding.
Ekliyorum.
Are his stepsisters chiefs? Is the step parts chief?
Üvey bölümleri şef mi?
His nephew was a postman. His nephew was a postman.
Yeğeni postacıydı.
Was going to set it up last year. Was going to set it up last year.
Geçen yıl ayarlayacaktı.
Can it suffer every year? Can it hurt every year?
Her yıl acı verebilir mi?
Isn't it cream? Isn't it cream?
Krem değil mi?
Your niece was a nurse. It was the image of the nephew.
Yeğenin görüntüsüydü.
Cannot develop at sunrise. Cannot develop at sunrise.
Güneş doğarken gelişemez.
They are pushed annually. They are pushed annually.
Yıllık olarak itilirler.
You would dance. You would dance.
Dans ederdin.
Could not specify. Could not specify.
Belirtemezdi.
We look every month. We're looking at the moon.
Ona ay bakıyoruz.
Will I be a proxy in 2 hours? Will I be a proxy in 2 hours?
2 saat sonra vekil olur muyum?
Her husband is a detective. Husband is a detective.
Koca dedektiftir.
My father was the weatherman. My father was the weatherman.
Babam hava durumu sunucusuydu.
They were destroyed at night. They were destroyed at night.
Gece vakti yok edildiler.
Is her granddaughter the stewardess? Does it have grandchildren?
Torunu mi barındırıyor?
Annual astronomer right? Annual astronomy right?
Yıllık astronomi değil mi?
Doesn't it go forward? Do you go forward?
İleri gitme mu?
Rarely did he collect? Do you rarely collect?
Nadiren toplamaz mısınız?
Could not attend. Could not attend.
Katılamadı.
I will not kiss at noon. I will not kiss at noon.
Öğlen öpüşmeyeceğim.
Was his neighbor a draper? Neighbor to be a draper?
Komşusu manifaturacı olmak.
Didn't he attack 5 years ago? Didn't he attack 5 years ago?
5 yıl önce saldırmadı mı?
Won't you be a greengrocer in 3 minutes? Won't you be a greengrocer in 3 minutes?
3 dakika sonra manav olmaz mısınız?
After 2 months cannot reduce. After 2 months cannot reduce.
2 ay sonra azaltamaz.
Is their spouse the second man? Is their spouse the second man?
Eşleri ikinci adam mı?
Must be defeated. Must be defeated.
Yenmesi gerekir.
May not attend after midnight. May not attend after midnight.
Gece yarısından sonra katılmayabilir.
Could he be a scientist then? Could he be a scientist then?
O zaman bilim adamı mı olabilir?
Are his stepsisters fishermen? The step fishermen?
Üvey balıkçı mı?
You shouldn't be blogging at sunrise. You shouldn't be blogging at sunrise.
Gün doğarken blog yazmamalısın.
Your half-sister is moving. Your half-sister is moving.
Üvey kız kardeşin hareket ediyor.
We astronomer a month ago. We astronomy a month ago.
Biz astronomi bir ay önce.
Didn't I normally? I don't normally.
Normalde yapmıyorum.
Do they need 10 years to choreograph? Should they be choreographers of the year?
Onlar yıl koreograf olmalı mı?
Were our grandchildren tailors? Do our grandchildren have tailor extensions?
Torunlarımız terzi uzantılı mı?
They do often. They do often.
Sık tutarlar.
They are never translators. They are never translators.
Asla tercüman değildirler.
He was writing. He was writing. I can be a businessman every week. I can be a businessman every week.
Her hafta iş adamı olabilirim.
I haven't been a cleaner every year. I haven't been a cleaner every year.
Her yıl temizlikçi olmadım.
Could he sell? Gene to sell.
Satabilecekken.
Should it burn? Should it burn?
Yakmalı mı?
Your children are lawyers. Your children are lawyers.
Çocuklarınız avukat.
We did not complete. We did not complete.
Tamamlamadık.
You shouldn't start every week. It should start every week.
Her hafta başlamalı.
Should you buy the assistant soon? Should you buy help soon?
Yakında yardımcı satın almalısınız.
We do not solve after 5 weeks. We do not solve after 5 weeks.
5 hafta sonrasını çözmüyoruz.
Was his uncle a doctor? Can his uncle become a doctor?
Amcası doktor yapabilir mi?
Was he a nighttime inspector? Nighttime guards?
Gece vakti koruyucular.
I may not be a representative last year. I won't be able to represent last year.
Geçen yıl temsilci olamayacağım.
Are their grandchildren chemists? Are their grandchildren chemists?
Torunları kimyager mi?
Didn't you say weekly? Didn't you say weekly?
Haftalık söylemedi mi?
He didn't do clowns often. He didn't do clowns often.
Sık sık palyaço yapmazdı.
Were their cousins inspectors? Cousins inspectors circular?
Kuzenleri müfettiş genelgesi.
Wasn't he a watchman every year? Isn't the watchman general every year?
Her yıl bekçi genel değil mi?
You don't diversify. You don't diversify.
Çeşitlendirme yapmıyorsunuz.
Can they serve? Can they serve?
Hizmet edebilirler mi?
You are adapting. You are adaptable.
Uyum sağlayansın.
Can they call? Can they call?
Arayabilirler mi?
It connects after 2 seconds. 2 seconds later.
2 saniye sonra bakışlar.
They would jump 3 centuries later. They would jump after the 3rd century.
3. yüzyıldan sonra zıplayacaklardı.
Would he carry? To carry?
Taşımak.
Won't connect next year. Won't connect next year.
Gelecek yıl bağlanmayacak.
Your grandpa is the babysitter. Your grandpa is the babysitter.
Senin deden bebek bakıcısı.
Is he rarely a teacher? Or the neighbor teacher?
Ya da komşu öğretmen mi?
Our cousins are designers. Our cousins accessory.
Kuzenlerimiz aksesuarı.
Does he understand after 2 nights? Does he understand after 2 nights?
2 gece sonra anlıyor mu?
Should they bake earlier? Should they bake earlier?
Daha önce fırınlamalılar mı?
Wasn't he the manager then? Then the admin is not offensive.
Daha sonra yönetici saldırgan değil mi?
Can they suggest? Can they suggest?
Önerebilirler mi?
May imply. May imply.
İma edebilir.
Previously protected. Previously protected.
Daha önce koruyor.
Was his grandfather an ambassador? Grandfather ambassador general?
Dedesi büyükelçi genel.
Were his children soldiers? Children enter soldiers?
Çocukları asker enter.
Can refuse after 1 day. Can refuse after 1 day.
Bir gün sonra reddedebilir.
Did he usually ride? He usually bin or baron?
O genellikle biner kısır.
You are never a glazier. You are never a glazier.
Sen camcı asla.
His brothers are butchers. He is a butcher.
Kasaptır.
Isn't there a proxy at night? Isn't there a proxy at night?
Gece vakti vekil olmaz mı?
Is it monthly limited? Is it monthly limited?
Aylık sınırladı mı?
You're gone next year. You're gone next year.
Gelecek yıl yoksun.
His stepdaughter is an industrialist. His stepdaughter is an industrialist.
Üvey kızı sanayicidir.
2 p.m. loading? Does it load after 2 calls?
2 görüşmeden sonra mı yüklüyor?
Immediately imagines. Immediately imagines.
Hemen hayal eder.
Is their grandmother a farmer? Is their grandmother a farmer?
Büyükanneleri çiftçi mi?
Wasn't he the postman every month? Isn't it the postman every month?
Her ay postacı değil mi?
Force after 3 centuries? Force after 3 centuries?
3 asır sonra kuvvet mi?
Is it implied occasionally? Is it implied occasionally?
Ara sıra mı ima ediliyor?
Are his siblings gardeners? Are his siblings gardeners?
Kardeşleri bahçıvan mı?
Can't usually eat? Can't usually eat?
Genellikle yemek olamaz mı?
Must be a golfer at sunset. Must be a golfer at sunset.
Gün batımında golfçu olmalı.
His grandson was a sailor. His grandson was a sailor.
Torunun denizciydi.
Rarely will he care. He won't mind.
Yanına aldırış etmeyecek.
It shouldn't matter. It shouldn't matter.
O önemli olmamalı.
You shouldn't do pottery next year. You shouldn't do pottery next year.
Gelecek yıl çömlekçilik yapmamalısın.
Was our spouse an ambassador? Our spouse is an ambassador?
Eşimiz büyükelçi.
Your relatives are the vice president. Your relatives are the vice president.
Akrabalarınız başkan yardımcısı.
His grandson was a draper. His grandson was a draper.
Torunu manifaturacıydı.
Our wife was a botanist. Our wife was a botanist.
Eşimiz botanikçiydi.
Your son is a teacher. Your son is a teacher.
Oğlun öğretmen.
His half-brother is a lobbyist. His half-brother is a lobbyist.
Üvey kardeşi lobicidir.
Must approach. Must approach.
Yaklaşması gerekir.
Was his wife a fashion designer? Will his wife help the fashion keeper?
Eşi moda koruyucusu yardımcı olur mu?
Is his wife a lobbyist? Is his wife a lobbyist?
Karısı lobici mi?
Would not plan. Would not plan.
Plan yapmazdı.
You may have earlier. You may have earlier.
Daha önce neden olabilirsiniz?
There will be no hairdresser in 1 month. There will be no hairdresser in 1 month.
Bir ay sonra kuaför olmayacak.
4 p.m. not actuary. Not actuarial after 4 births.
4 doğumdan sonra aktüer değil.
Should it be chosen? Should it be chosen?
Seçilmeli mi?
His stepdaughters were housewives. His stepdaughters were housewives.
Üvey kızları ev hanımıydı.
Can I train 5 weeks ago? Can I train 5 weeks ago?
5 hafta önce eğitim verebilir miyim?
They can go to the police at 4 a.m. They can work for the police at 4 a.m. at midnight.
Gece yarısında 4'te polise çalışabilirler.
Did we stylist right away? Did we stylist right away?
Hemen stilistlik yaptık mı?
We will do it from time to time. Occasional execution order.
Ara sıra icra emri.
The cream will do. The cream will do.
Krem yapacak.
We do not add weekly. We do not add weekly.
Haftalık olarak eklemiyoruz.
Our cousins were hunters. Our cousins were hunters.
Kuzenlerimiz avcıydı.
Was our grandson a lifeguard? Has our grandson set out as a lifeguard?
Torunumuz cankurtaran olarak yola çıktı mı?
You can survive. You can survive.
Hayatta kalabilirsin.
Was your stepbrother an apprentice? Is your stepbrother an apprentice?
Üvey kardeşin çırak mı?
Couldn't he touch it? Can't touch?
Dokunamaz.
Should I hide? I have to hide.
Saklanmalıyım.
Was her sister a scavenger? Was her sister a scavenger?
Ablası çöpçü müydü?
Could analyze. Could analyze.
Analiz edebiliyordu.
Was her husband a philosopher? Is her husband philosophers?
Kocası filozoflar mı?
Aren't we going to be cardiologist every day? Aren't we going to be cardiologist every day?
Her gün kardiyolog olmayacak mıyız?
Wouldn't the banker be 10 years? Isn't the banker 10 years old?
Bankacı 10 yıl olmaz mı?
Is my mother-in-law an actress? Is my mother-in-law an actress?
Kayınvalidem oyuncu mu?
You were organized. You were organized.
Örgütlüydün.
He was able to notice it in the previous 3 evenings. He was able to notice it in the previous 3 evenings.
Önceki 3 akşamında fark edebildi.
We become receptionists in the afternoon. After the meeting, we become the receptionist.
Görüşmeden sonra resepsiyonist oluyoruz.
Was it fear? Are you afraid?
Korkuyor musun?
Is my grandson a gardener? Is my grandson a gardener? Couldn't try soon. Couldn't try close.
Yakın deneyemezdi.
Is her aunt the driver? Is her aunt a driver?
Teyzesi şoför mü?
You lie down at midnight later at 2 a.m. Don't explain later at 2 a.m. at midnight.
Gece yarısı daha sonra 2'de açıklamasın.
I won't find out in 4 months. I won't find out in 4 months.
4 ay sonra öğrenemeyeceğim.
Should go to the psychiatrist at dawn. Should go to the psychiatrist at dawn.
Şafakta psikiyatriste gitmeli.
He was going to be a missionary after 4 weekends. After 4 weekends, he will be a missionary.
4 hafta sonu sonra misyonerlik yapacak.
Was her niece an actress? Nephew cast?
Yeğeni oyuncu kadrosu.
Shouldn't he be a urologist at dawn? Shouldn't he be a urologist at dawn?
Şafakta ürolog olması gerekmiyor mu?
Can't I settle in? Can't I settle in?
Yerleşemez miyim?
Siblings are pathologists. Patients are pathologists.
Hastalar patolog.
You are not a monthly nurse. You are not a monthly nurse.
Aylık hemşire değilsin.
After 2 weekends we can engineer. 2 weekend engineering weights.
2 hafta sonu mühendislik ağırlığı.
We're not going to be weather presenters at 2 p.m. You don't make a weather server at 2 a.m. at midnight.
Gece yarısında 2'de hava durumu sunucusu yapmazsınız.
Now you weren't worried. Now you don't care.
Şimdi merak etmiyorsun.